Hi and welcome.
My name is Khadijah.
I'm Dan.
Let's talk about debt. So interesting.
When you say let's talk about debt, so interesting, makes me feel like usually debt's not that interesting.
It's not.
But it's a necessity in life or a necessity to understand, especially in today's society. But I think it is actually, there's a lot of things to uncover. Yeah.
Okay, so this is from the subreddit r/adulting. As many of you know, I'm a new adult. It is why I need
When
this
you to the
subreddit.
adult, when do you think you officially become an adult?
I think with your first, no, I don't know.
It's like,
21?
is it really age?
Maybe like 25 because that's when you can rent a car.
No way. Well,
Makes sense.
18, you're legally considered an adult.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of other things that makes you an adult. Like 21, you can drink alcohol.
No.
25, you can rent a car. 35, you can run for president.
Some people don't drive cars, some people don't drink alcohol, whatever. It's more along the lines when you're financially responsible on your own.
18, you're a baby adult. You're not an
If
actual
If
adult.
you're taking care of yourself, I'd reconsider that. You need to meet some 18-year-olds that run their own businesses, own their own homes. Yeah, of course.
That makes me feel bad. Let's talk about this. So this question was, is everyone living in debt? This person is, I am so sick of seeing people living lavish lifestyles because everything is so expensive. Grocery stores are full, restaurants and bars are full. How are people affording this lifestyle? And honestly, I agree with this person. Like, how?
I went out with my wife 2 weeks ago because we recently had a baby. I haven't gone out in a while. We went out to get sushi, and when I got the bill, it hurt. Going out to eat is expensive.
Going out to eat is one of the most expensive things you can do.
Yeah, going out to eat, you have to take that into perspective. It's only like a percentage of the population that you see at that specific restaurant. Like I know there's plenty of restaurants that are full, but maybe they're celebrating birthdays or something along those lines.
They're always full though.
Not always, but
When I go out, they're always full.
yeah, okay. When do you go out? Saturday?
No, like even on weekdays, they're usually
Yeah.
pretty full.
I think people don't like to cook too. A lot of people don't like to cook. If you're going to a restaurant, there's a couple places, especially like if you're single, I think it might be actually more efficient just to get some food somewhere. If you can find dinner for $15 instead of going to the grocery store, cooking it. I hate eating leftovers, but I always do. But things like that's part of adulting. But if you Uber Eats or like DoorDash, then
Uber Eats will literally put a hole in your wallet, so don't do that.
yeah, every time I order from there, like the rare occasion, but
I do it on rare occasions too. Even if I do Uber Eats, I'll go pick up the food myself. Okay, let's talk about, is everyone living in debt? Let me know if you think everyone is living in debt. But statistically, what do you think? Do you think everyone is living in debt?
everyone, I think it's like 85%.
Which is,
They carry some type of debt. I'd probably say 95% of people have had debt in their lives as an adult, because even the wealthiest people have debt.
oh, let's not talk about wealthy. That's going to make a really good episode next time, wealthy people and how they leverage debt.
Yeah.
But this is about the everyday Joe or Joanne just going through their life with debt. This is an interesting statistic. American household debt hit a record 16.9 trillion at the end of 2022.
Okay, 16.9 trillion.
Trillion.
I remember when we first started Change, it was like in the 13, 14 trillion. So it's continuing to climb.
2.7 trillion since 2019. How many zeros are in a trillion?
12?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
What's zero?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's right.
It's because I have $1 trillion in my bank account.
I had it in front of me and I still got it wrong, but whatever. 12 zeros in a trillion, which is,
You couldn't even spend that in your life.
do you think anyone in our lifespan is going to become a trillionaire? That'd be interesting.
It's going to become a thing when people start building bigger and bigger companies or bigger conglomerates, start becoming wealthier families, start combining wealth and stuff like that. But
I hope it doesn't happen
I
anytime.
think once you have a couple of $1 million, like I don't think your lifestyle changes, it just gets weirder. Wouldn't you think? Anyways, do
Okay,
you have a percentage of people that have debt or?
we'll talk about that in a little bit because that's a big number.
Okay, it is a huge number.
I do want to ask you, how much do you think Americans owe on their credit cards?
This year,
2022.
$6,000.
No, like all Americans. How much debt?
Total debt, the credit card debt, $700 million.
No, 906 billion. Nothing is in the millions anymore.
I know, I'm sorry. I got the millions and billions.
$986 billion on credit cards, surpassing the pre-pandemic high of $927 billion. And we owe 11.92 trillion on mortgages, 1.55 trillion,
God.
1.55 trillion vehicle loans, and 1.60 trillion for student loans.
Okay, you're mentioning really big numbers. Some of the population have personally big number, but if you disperse that among all of the credit card holders,
340 million people.
okay, we're probably talking about a few $1,000s a person, right?
But $16.9 trillion divided between 340 million people. That consumer debt is painful.
It is painful. So I view debt, especially in America, and you might not agree with me, but it's really a gift of opportunity because you're allowed to borrow that. If you think of other countries, especially like third world countries, you don't even have that opportunity, right? So you have, I know debt's horrible and like people that mismanage it and whatnot, but if you can manage it correctly, which is the most important thing, and hopefully you learn a few things watching this podcast. But if you really manage it correctly, it could be a blessing, right? It could be a gift, but mismanaging it could put you in a life sentence of just being miserable.
Clever ways of leveraging debt, but most people don't do
Yeah,
that.
it's about habits, right?
Now, who do you think holds the most debt out of all of the age groups? 18 to 29 years old, 30 to 39 years, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, or 70 and older? Who do you think has the most debt?
40 to 49.
40 to 49 have 1.13 trillion, but you're wrong. 30 to have more debt than 40 to 49.
39.
0.17 trillion between them.
I was thinking more the older generation would have more debt because of mortgages.
On average, 49s have $27,838.
There's just more of us than them.
Yes, so that
More of
might
us.
fix that.
Millennials.
Yeah, which these statistics are scary, but debt is not just about numbers. Debt is so much more about how human beings operate.
I mean, it's psychological, yeah.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
How does debt make me feel? Like a gray cloud hanging over my head?
Really?
Yeah, especially when I think about it.
Didn't you say that there are clever ways of leveraging debt?
There is. It is a blessing. Like,
Do you?
I have not been able to buy, I don't know, not my first car, but a car without debt. But I try to, my relationship with debt goes up and down consistently, right? I just try to keep it under a manageable amount. And every time I feel like I'm exceeding my own personal financial capabilities, I just start tightening up.
Tightening up.
Yeah.
And what do you mean when you say you tighten up? What sort of debt do you tighten?
I go out to eat a lot less. With a kid, I'd barely eat now. I stopped spending money on like stupid little things, I would say.
The stupid little
try-
things are the most expensive.
I try to use all of my spare dollars to pay down my debt. So everything I possibly can besides like some savings and whatnot, to pay that down. And then I try to like restructure some of it sometimes, right? If I had some credit card debt and I don't know, it had 0% for some time, but now there's a balance, like, okay, and I can't pay it off. Sometimes I'd balance transfer or something like that, but that's also a tricky game to play.
Yeah. You have to really know what you're doing when it comes to debt.
How about you?
I don't have any debt.
Yeah, right? You've talked about your credit card before.
I have. Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that my finances are perfect. They're not, especially since I moved into a new house. Things have been a little bit, because I'm also like paying for school at the same time.
Yeah.
So I have to be really
You're tightening the
control.
belt, yeah.
Yeah, I have to tighten my belt too. One of the ways I do it is by never eating out, or if I'm eating out, somebody else is paying for my bill. You have
So either you have really nice friends or you try to find a
No.
date that'll pay for
the
it.
dates are paying for the dates are paying. So I went out on Thursday on 4th of July. Went out to a really nice restaurant. Went out to Sierra.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
somebody else paid for that, not me.
That's a whole other conversation.
Exactly. Did you know there was this finance creator on TikTok who was like, I ate out for the entire year just by going on dates.
I remember when I used to work at 1871, which is like a startup incubator, and they would always have like lunches, like other companies would have lunches there, or they'd have like events. And not only like our team, but like almost every single person that was starting a business is, lunches at the table, like free lunch, everyone would just make a plate. But usually they would just set out the spread that was left over and you'd get free food.
Free lunch, whatever. Try to find free things. And you have noticed that I pack my lunch and you do the same thing. Everyone does the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yep.
People used to go out.
Brown bag. No, there's a few of them.
No, a lot of people used to go out every day, but I heard them go, listen, I can't go out anymore.
Yeah. You
Like,
start
they
seeing-
made the conscious decision of packing their lunch. which is something everybody should be doing. Just pack your lunch.
And like, you have a credit card, and let's just say you're budgeting, like, things like paying to go out to eat on your credit card is probably like the worst. Unless it's like necessities. And I know credit cards companies like form their points plan, which I feel like the points game is a poor person's game. And Nick always contradicts me for that.
I think the points game is with miles and stuff.
You're paying dollars to get cents. Sure, you could take advantage of the points and you can manipulate the whole system. You could transfer points and all of that. But realistically, for the majority of people, like my wife's sister just said, oh, I just opened up a new credit card. I'm like, why? She's, oh, because they give me points. And I'm like, that is not the right incentive to open up a credit card. But if you
Can't pay it in full, don't open another credit card. Don't do it. The points aren't worth it. But if you do pay it in full every month, the points are worth it.
There's some cases of like balance transfers or stuff like that to open up a new card if you're paying 20+% on a card. But sometimes I try to even find cards that are in the lower double digits, like 10, and make myself pay that interest. It's like my punishment. It's like, I'm going to pay this off. I've done that in the past because I'm like, Dan, you need to learn. You need to learn your lesson.
That's crazy. Not a lot of people have the discipline. Ask me what my APR on my credit card is.
What's your APR?
I don't know. And that's the case with most people. They don't know what their APR is.
Yeah, it's hidden in your statements at the bottom and whatnot.
Your APR. A lot of people have like APRs.
You know what you should look at is like how much interest you actually pay, which is usually on the top of the balance, and it's sickening.
I always pay mine in full, so I really don't pay any interest ever, but still, yeah, that's good. Did you know that credit card balances and car debt goes up when you have kids? What was that like for you? Because you have a kid.
Yeah, credit cards, yeah, I could see, because in a lot of cases, one of the spouses takes off or cuts back at work. And it's usually the mom in the relationship, right? My wife's working 5 hours a week now, but eventually will work 20 hours a week compared to 40 to 50 hours a week, right? So yeah, credit card goes up, but in terms of auto loans, that didn't really go up to us currently, just because I'm one that's always maneuvering cars, and I drive a car with no payment. My wife has a small payment, but at a super low interest rate, and it's a super low balance. So
I think it makes sense because the more kids you have, the more...
Yeah, you want to upgrade a car.
Car
like you
space
drive
you
a
need.
car, you need a SUV or a van or whatnot, stuff like that.
But what is a workaround for people having children and not raising their credit card balances?
Workaround? Not eating out is one thing.
Also, planning the birth of the child.
If it's not planned, then it's a whole different scenario. But if it is planned,
So many people just have a baby.
I think that's
A
getting
lot of
less and less. But yeah, and if they're 18, they're technically adults.
Almost all of my friends have children. Isn't that crazy? I get mistaken for a child. I got mistaken for a child, which is so insane.
Yeah, we saved aggressively before we had a kid too. We did like a specific type of birth, which was like a set cost too, which is nice compared to the hospital birth, which is like a black hole of unknown. And I really despise the medical industry for that, but it was nice to have a set expense. Baby showers are super nice, especially for your first baby. So try to get as many of the things you need. And one other thing is, if you could breastfeed, it's saving us a ton of money. Like, it's not everyone could do it, but that saves a ton of money. Formula is super expensive.
Formula so expensive.
I got back down to reasonable cost, but
How much is like a bottle of formula?
I never bought formula yet.
That is awesome.
It's $2 a bottle. So it's $2 a bottle. Nick said, but they eat 10 bottles a day. So
Babies are expensive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the debt everybody loves, mortgage debt. You have a mortgage?
Yes, I do.
I would really like a house and to have a mortgage, but okay, let me quiz you really quick. We're going to talk about mortgage and race because race is ever present in America. When it comes to mortgages, who do you think the highest median amount is held by? White borrowers, black borrowers, or Hispanic borrowers?
White borrowers.
He is so right. I feel like
mean,
that's
the
my mom's
majority of the
question.
population in the U.S. is still white, right? But
How much do you think the median amount is that is held by white borrowers? This is an interesting number.
$146,000.
See, you are so close. $130,000.
I do a lot of research in general.
How much do you think black borrowers hold in mortgage debt? It's lower than white borrowers.
Really? $108,000.
$116,000. And then for Hispanic borrowers, it's $130,000.
Okay.
Which, how is it so low? Really, median home prices are how are they?
Well, it's the mortgage, so they might have purchased their house 20 years ago, but now it's paid down. And some people own their home outright compared to having a mortgage on it. And then also, many people still rent.
Renting
That's
is
out of the
less expensive than having a mortgage right now.
So in this case scenario, like people don't understand, like owning a home, yeah, it's a dream, but it's also an expense. And especially when you have a high interest rate and then include the expenses, like we're replacing a roof on our garage now, which costs several thousands of dollars. That's an expense, right? So that's, you can consider that in terms of renting. You don't have to worry about those things. You might not get what you want, but
It's less stable when you're renting, but it's less expensive.
we might less stable.
The rent could go up anytime. There are no laws in Illinois that go.
Well, you set up, there's a market, and then you set up a 12-month agreement normally, unless it's short term.
Your landlord could be like, I'm going to sell this house.
That's true. That's true.
Do you have an HOA?
Yes.
How is it?
It's not fun, but
I've heard terrible things about HOAs.
yeah, they're good and bad.
You pay a fee for it.
But that's what an HOA is.
I just had they were like they protected the like.
No, HOA covers the costs of the actual property. So if you live in a condo, right, you pay all the bills that you have expense for your unit, but an HOA covers the cost of cutting the grass or fixing the masonry work or fixing something external or cleaning the hallways or stuff like that, snow removal. So things you would have to do as a homeowner, that's taken care of. Like at our HOA, our water is covered in that cost. So I can take a hour-long shower and not worry about it.
That's great. My landlord covers it.
Yeah.
But owning a home is just so much more than just like the mortgage you're paying. Is the HOA fees, is the property taxes. One of my friends, their property taxes went up, and they like review your property before like assigning you a tax number, which is insane.
They don't, not before assigning you a tax number, but they base it off of the value of your house.
Yes.
So HOAs are usually like specific neighborhoods that are like an association, like gated neighborhoods that usually have HOAs because there's specific things that they need to do to keep this neighborhood in a specific scenario. But if you own like a single family home or like an apartment, then you don't pay an HOA, but you have to cover all the costs out of pocket if something breaks.
I'm just curious. Once you own your home outright, like you've paid off your mortgage, do you still have to worry about all of these other costs like property taxes?
Yes. You have to pay taxes no matter what, but it's like a necessary evil, right? You hate paying it, but you also like to use public transportation or drive on a street or ride your bike or whatever. So just think of it as a necessary expense.
Now my favorite topic, men versus women. Question,
Yeah.
Who do you think has more debt? Men or women? He's going to be right about this too because I've asked him this before.
I think men carry more debt.
Yes, they do. 2% more credit card debt, 20% more personal loan debt, 16.3 more auto loan debt, 9.7 more mortgage debt. Why is that?
Statistically, until the last decade or so, men normally worked the full-time job and women would take care of the house or whatnot, but there's usually higher incomes there, and that's a whole nother thing to discuss. And that's why men carry more debt, because you need a specific income to get that debt.
But more debt doesn't mean men's debt burden is greater. More women report carrying unmanageable levels of debt than men, 39% versus 31%, because women have lower incomes, like you said, and are more often responsible for caring for children as a single parent.
Yep, and those are tough situations. My mom was a single mom.
And that's
Yeah, ton of credit card debt.
And that statistic is even higher for Black women. And it hit $1 trillion last year.
Okay, so from 900 to a trillion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So everyone during COVID that had a job that was working from home was able to save and consider all of those expenses to get to or to going out because you're going out to eat was probably cut more than half. So more and more people were saving, right? A lot of the institutions had so many deposits. They were like on a high for being in the banking space. And then obviously the stimulus checks everyone got, which was an additional, either people spent it or people saved it or paid off some debt with it.
That was smart.
But once we started coming out of that, and then obviously inflation started happening, so all of your normal expenses, your groceries especially, started getting a lot more expensive. Those savings dwindled away. The incomes didn't increase.
Question for you. What do you think the most common debt type is in America? Mortgage, credit card, auto loans, student loans, personal loans. What is it?
I think credit cards.
This game is not fun because he already knows all the answers. You should be asking me questions. That would be fun.
Yeah, we should have done it that way. I just think that most 18, 20-year-olds open up a credit card. They may or may not have a car. or maybe their parents gave them their old car. Some scenarios like that. Not everyone has a home. People rent, but almost everyone has a credit card.
Yes, that is true. It's so easy to get a credit card. But with credit cards comes great responsibility.
It's not easy to get a credit card. You need good credit. You need good payment history. Sure, you can get your first credit card,
They
but if
throw it at you.
they try to, yes, but not everyone gets approved.
Really? It was really easy.
Yes, because you have a job.
That is true. That is true. But with great credit comes great responsibility.
So when I sold cars, there's plenty of people when they were buying their first car, they didn't have a credit card, and we'd do a credit inquiry, and they didn't exist. And that's what they called a ghost, right? They're like a ghost in terms of every credit bureau. There's no info. So normally you would need a cosigner, you would need a college degree, you would need a job. So like you can use, like a lot of, at least the car manufacturer I worked for, is if you had a college degree and you had a job lined up, they would give you the best rate possible because they know, like, all right, this person has the potential to pay.
I'm going to say it for the third time. With great credit comes great responsibility. I promise you have a point with great credit comes great responsibility. Delinquencies. Those are on the rise too. As credit card debt rises, so do delinquencies rise. Now, question for you. Which age group do you think is the most delinquent in paying off their credit cards?
20s, 30s, or 40s? Is that
Yes, it's the same age group as before.
20s?
These people are not responsible. 7.6%.
It's riding a bike. When you first start riding it, you're going to fall.
Yeah, okay.
And then you get older, then you fall no matter what.
They're not, like 7.6% of these people, 18 to 29 age range, are 90 days or more behind on their payments.
All right. Yeah, it's not manageable.
Pay your minimums is all I'm going to ask of you. But let me ask you again, do you think everyone is living in debt?
I think 85% of people have balances, mortgages, or whatnot. That's what makes this economy go around.
Debt. Like the famed patriot Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me debt at America's founding. As the country emerges from the COVID-19 pandemic, America's motto has changed to forget financial liberty, give me debt. And with that, we end this episode. Let me know. Wait, you have something to say? I'm sorry.
That, in a nutshell, is a very negative.
Just that everyone has debt.
Yes, they do. You have the freedom to make that decision and how to
A lot
manage
of people
it.
don't have, let me not get into that, but a lot of people don't have the freedom of getting into debt.
Yeah.
Single moms, they gotta feed the baby.
I understand that, that's for sure. But I'm just saying that there's...
We'll continue this conversation in the next episode. Thank you
Yes.
so much for tuning in. Let me know your
Subscribe,